last week, it's going to be a humongous task for him to get reelected, given the current political environment. I think the difference here is that whereas some people seem, including Steve, seem to interpret what the president said as an admission that the economy is all his fault, it's also possible to say from the president's perspective, listen, this economy was in terrible shape, and here's what I've done. And yes, we are not as well off as we were 4 years ago. Many Americans are suffering still through high unemployment, lots of foreclosure, but we've done the best we possibly could with a very difficult situation.
Charles.
I think it's a simple admission of the truth that there's a statute of limitation on placing the blame on your predecessor. It's about 3 years and it's a run out, and if you try to continue and do that, it looks as if you either are clueless or not willing to take responsibility. So I think he's just admitting the obvious here.
When he's on the campaign trail, the president has been pointing to a number of different elements of the Republican field as it stands now. One of the lines he's used recently pointed back to our debate in Orlando. Take a listen to the president.
We don't believe in the kind of smallness that says it's okay for a stage full of political leaders, one of whom could end up being the President of the United States, being silent when an American soldier is booed. We don't believe in that.
He's changed that line. He's said that the crowd booed the soldier, the Marine actually, who that question came from on YouTube. And just to refresh everybody's memory, let's play that quickly and then comment on it.
In 2010, when I was deployed to Iraq, I had to lie about who I was because I'm a gay soldier, and I didn't want to lose my job. My question is, under one of your presidencies, do you intend to circumvent the progress that's been made for gay and lesbian soldiers in the military?
I should say that's a soldier, because he's not a Marine. He's wearing an Army T-shirt. But you heard the boos there. Steve, what about the president mentioning this numerous times?
Well, I think it suggests that he's likely to focus on issues that don't have to do with the economy in this upcoming election, because it's a lot easier. Look, I think it's a cheap shot. I mean, I think that it would have been great if the president, the candidates on the stage that night would have said, you shouldn't boo. But really, by all accounts, the people I talked to immediately after the debate who were sitting in the vicinity said that there were 2 people who booed at the event, and that they were in fact shouted down and shushed by everybody sitting around them. So do you really want to get into a pattern where a presidential candidate has to respond to every heckler in every crowd? You remember this president didn't respond to some of the hateful rhetoric that we've seen from people either working for him or campaigning for him, Richard Trumka being the most recent example.
And Juan, well, you're shaking your head. What about that?
Well, I just think that's a rationalization by Steve. I mean, I think that's reprehensible. I don't think he should be booing gay soldiers, any soldiers.
Wait. I didn't say that, and I didn't suggest it. And I said I would like to have seen them condemn that, the fact that even though it was only 2 people, but you really start a bad precedent if you think that everybody should respond to the boorish behavior of a couple of people.
Well, here's what Rush Limbaugh has said out in the blogosphere and on his radio show today, is that then Senator Obama didn't respond to Reverend Wright for 20 years in that church. That's what he said. And then he said, and he didn't respond to James Hoffa after he spoke, introing him at that event. And these are all different things.
You know, this is hyper-partisan type of rhetoric. It's meaning. It's all Limbaugh is doing is playing to the far right, and I'm sure they like it. But, you know, when you hear at the debates people saying, oh, yeah, let the kid on the motorcycle who has the accident die if he doesn't have health insurance. When you hear them applauding when the questioner asked about the more than 200 death penalty executions under Rick Perry, you get the impression this is a far-right crowd, and it's getting red meat, and they're embracing it, and you just stop and you say, what is going on?
But
let me just say,
2 guys or 3 guys.
Look, I don't care who it is. I
understand it was reprehensible.
It's not good stuff. Not good. All right. And the second thing to say is I think that the president is using this to excite his base. And much like what Steve was saying a moment ago, move away from the social issues. I think social issues in this campaign are toxic for the Republicans, but they are mana for the Democrats and President Obama. Because once you start talking about the gay soldier or some of these other issues, I think people then have some reservations about exactly what they're embracing as an alternative to President Obama. And I think that's why it's so important that we've seen over the last few days the growth of these anti-Wall Street protests spreading around the country. I think suddenly you see something here that seems organic.
Shouldn't the president have to denounce the craziness coming out of those? I mean, by your account, you should have to denounce.
I don't know what the craziness. I don't see any craziness. I see people who are upset about the economy.
Okay, we're going to talk about that next panel, but you jumped the gun. Charles?
Look, 2 points. This is the kind of cheap shot people took at the Tea Party early on when they would find one sign out of 1,000 which might have had a Hitler analogy or something in reference to Obama, which is a technique everybody will use. The president obviously is appealing. He thinks his only way to win is to go to the base, which is these groups who supported him in 08 who are disaffected, and to get them. And that is not the who Bush as being a divider. He's running his campaign on dividing labor against non-labor, gays and straights, and trying to energize people in terms of their ethnicities or groups. And now, look, you can do that. It's legitimate. It's not unconstitutional, but it isn't what Obama had promised. And I think it's a reason people are so disaffected with him. He was going to be the transcender, and now he's a guy who appeals one at a time on the basis of very small identity politics.
There's a reaction from football, apparently, to something that was said on Fox and Friends. Hank Williams Jr. said President Obama playing golf with House Speaker Boehner is like Hitler playing with Netanyahu. Apparently he said that in an interview. I didn't see it, but NFL football has pulled the intro to Monday Night Football tonight, Hank Williams Jr.'s intro, as a reaction to that. Same kind of genre,
well,
I guess, that we're talking
about.
about.
Charles says, oh, you know, President Obama is acting in such a partisan manner. I mean, gosh, who has been absolutely blocking Obama at every turn on a purely partisan manner?
Senate Democrats. Oh, they haven't been partisan, but they've been blocking the president.
No, they haven't
been
been blocking the president. No, you think that conservative Democrats, you're saying?
Senate Democrats are blocking the president's job.
I can tell you that Eric Cantor said today there's no way the bill comes as a package to the floor.
Dick Durbin had said the other day that they didn't have the votes to pass it. They're blocking him.
Democrats had control of the House and the Senate for the first 2 years, and it took Obama a year and a half to get Obamacare passed. It was not Republicans who blocked it.
Okay, we will move on. Next up, the occupation on Wall Street. Stay with us.